Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni moni wanji, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you're joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show, and please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher Radio, Good Pods, wherever you find your podcasts. Our guest today is Nicole Brewer. She is here to celebrate an ABC guide to children's games around the globe. Before we invite Nicole into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by Escape to Play, a beautiful picture book written and illustrated by Becky Garish. What could go wrong when three mischievous dogs escape to explore the farm? Find out with your kids in the rhyming picture book called Escape to Play. The beautifully detailed illustrations showcase the dogs' antics as they wreak havoc on every page. Be sure to notice the educational section in the back. It helps kids explore the beautiful illustrations and learn about the classic artwork recreated throughout the book. If that isn't fun enough, kids can enjoy searching for Norman, the little mouse found on every page. Ask for Escape to Play at your local independent bookstore. This episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is also brought to you by I Can Handle It, beautiful picture book by Laurie Wright. If you're a parent or teacher of kids aged 4 to 5, then this book is for you. Laurie Wright, author of I Can Handle It, helps people just like you boost positive self-talk in kids so that they can feel less anxious and much more confident. I Can Handle It is written in kid language so that kids get it and understand how to speak it to themselves. It features everyday situations that seem difficult, showing that life's ups and downs can be handled. When reading the book, kids understand that they can handle their problems too and start repeating the phrase, I can handle it, almost right away. Negative self-talk is the root of most mental suffering. So by teaching positive self-talk to kids when they're young, we can help them avoid a lifetime of mental struggle. This book has helped hundreds of thousands of kids around the world feel better about themselves. It's published in 8 different languages, and it's become a staple in many home libraries, classrooms, and therapist offices. Laurie has offered the audiobook for free to my audience. Download it at lauriewrightauthor.com/Jed. Make sure you use a capital J to get a taste of what it's all about. I Can Handle It by Laurie Wright. Join us right now from the nation of Oman. Our guest is here today to celebrate an ABC guide to children's games around the globe. Please welcome to the show, Nicole Brewer. Hey, Nicole, how are you?
I am great. How about yourself?
I'm pretty wonderful. And you're not able to see this, those of you who are listening, but through the magic of technology, I get to look into Oman and I see Nicole, and she has this huge smile on her face. It must be because you love playing games.
I do. I love playing games. They bring so much joy, right?
They do. Unless you're playing with somebody who has to win. And then it can be annoying.
That's a valid point, yes.
So tell us all about an ABC guide to children's games around the globe.
Well, Jed, thank you for asking and thanks for having me. Well, as you were saying before, I'm actually an English teacher. I've been living abroad for over a decade, and the majority of that actually has been here in the Middle East. And so, as a teacher who's lived, around the world in different countries, one of the reasons that I wrote an ABC guide to children's games around the globe was because I wanted to inspire kids to hopefully want to get out of their comfort zone, learn about different cultures, and hopefully inspire them to want to travel and see different countries. So the book in particular is actually dedicated to my nephews. They're 10 and 12. And so, I tried to focus on that age range, like between 8 and 12, actually, games that would appeal to that age range and that reading level. And yeah, so for every letter of the alphabet, A is for Australia, B is for Brazil, O is for Oman, where I live. S is for South Korea, where I used to live. So, really it was nice to be able to teach my nephews about these different countries that I've traveled to and that I live in. And, really I just want kids to learn about different cultures and to be open to different places to visit in the future.
So when we are reading an ABC Guide to Children's Games Around the Globe with our kids and we read S is for South Korea, do we also read and learn how to play a game that kids in South Korea play?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the idea, is teaching your child about a game from that particular country. Hopefully, they'll be like, that's so interesting. Actually, it's funny because you mentioned S from South Korea. When I had set my nephews down to read the book, and my little nephew, Nicholas, he's 10 years old. He read it from cover to cover. He was so excited. And at the end, I was asking him and my nephew Ryan, I was like, which game would you want to play? And my nephew Ryan, he was just like, oh yeah, the game in South Korea looks kind of cool. I'll play that game. And it just made me so happy. And I was like, your auntie used to live there, right? I was a teacher there. And he was like, wow, really? I was like, yeah, he was literally born the year that I moved to South Korea. So now, like, it's so nice to share in that with him, just that curiosity and like to see his eyes light up. Like, you lived in South Korea? I was like, yes.
So tell us about that game that kids in South Korea and your nephew love.
Okay. Actually, yeah, good question. I remember it's a game where you have it's like a little ball and you kick it. And it's kind of like almost like a hacky sack ball. Like you try to kick it and you and your friends try to make sure it doesn't fall. And so, yeah, the one cool thing about this particular book and like these games, like the reason that I find it interesting is because nowadays, especially my nephew's 12 years old, right? So like they are addicted to video games. I go visit them this summer and they're just like glued to their game. And I'm like, are you and your brother going to play? Can we play together? Like, can we, I want to bring back that joy of like interaction with other kids. Like that was really a big part of it for me, because it was just, okay, here, you want to play this game? I need to find this ball for you so you can actually play and get outside, play with your friends instead of just being glued to the video game all day.
I have to tell you, I hear you. I hear you. My kids are grown now. My son was that kid addicted to video games, and I'm not going to say I tried my best. I tried to get into it with him. And I was really surprised at how uninterested I was in video games, because when they first came out, I think I spent a few hours of my life playing Pong, and what a ridiculous game that was. But the technology at the time fascinated me, and then the next, I think there was the soccer game on something called Intellivision, and we played that. But that was about it. As the games got more and more sophisticated, I seemed to get less and less interested in them. And, my daughter was a real kind of active, physically active young person. So we would get out and we would throw the football around or kick the soccer ball around or go for a hike or throw the Frisbee. And not so much for my son. And part of me wishes that I would have spent more time playing the video games that he loved, together. But there's also a huge part of me that wished he would have come outside more to play catch with me and my daughter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, so that's the beauty of it. I think parents will actually enjoy reading this book just as much as the kids will, because it's like some of these games I'm sure they've never heard of as well. They're games for other countries, and it's just like they're learning something new and the child is learning something new. So it's like you get to share in that together. At least that's some of the feedback that I've gotten from some of my friends who have bought the book. So it makes me happy that they're like, oh, I actually learned something new too. I'm like, yay.
As you're talking, one of the things that just kind of flashed into my mind, and that's, I have to warn you, that's what happens on this podcast. Just stuff jumps into my mind. It might not have anything to do with what we're talking about. But I'm thinking maybe if I had had this book when my son was 12 or 13, and he's like, nah, I don't really want to throw the football around. If I said, hey, let's go out and play this game that the kids in South Korea play, maybe that would be the hook that would pique his interest.
I never even thought about it like that. That's a good point. Like because I'm not a parent, right? Like I wrote this from the angle of like, I'm a teacher and I'm an auntie. Like I wanted to inspire my nephews. So, I look at it from the parent aspect. It's just like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense as well. I was more so just like excited to teach kids about different cultures and different countries. But yeah, I guess that's the way to look at it too. It's just like opening their eyes up to a new place and just like, maybe that might pique their interest that much more.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the way to look at it. Yeah.
What's the most unusual game that you introduce us to in the book?
Ooh, the most unusual. That's a good question. I really have to think about that. One of the games that really sticks out to me that I remember that I really like, I think it would draw kids in. I can't say it's necessarily unusual, but I think it's different because it incorporates candy. It incorporates a food into the game. And so like I know in Germany there's a game that the kids, you blindfold them, right? And you have like a piece of chocolate under a pot on the floor. So like they're crawling around on the floor and with a little wooden stick, and they're like trying, and it's nice because like anybody can play this game because you don't have to like buy it from that particular country. Like everyone has a pot, everyone has chocolate, everyone has a wooden stick. So, I think it's cool because there's access to this particular game. So, the kids have to have their blindfold on, and they're crawling around on the floor and they're trying to find the pot, basically like the pot of gold, but it's really chocolate. So, it's like once they find it, they hit it like, they know they found the chocolate. And so I think, like I know when I read the book to my nephew's class, in his school before I left the U.S., and I was like, who likes chocolate? Everyone raised their hands like, yes, me, teacher. Yes, I like chocolate. So everyone gets excited when you're like, ooh, there's a prize at the end when I find it. So I think that game really just stuck out to me because I was the only game that incorporated food in it.
Well, that's really neat. And as you're speaking, I'm thinking of a documentary, or maybe it was a feature when I was watching, I think, a World Cup game, and Pele was part of it. And, they were talking about Pele growing up on the streets of Brazil and playing soccer with, a ball, balled up clothes. They didn't have a soccer ball, but they just took some clothes and rolled them up or something, and that was what they used. And that's the reality for most kids in the world. You know better than I. And I think that's an important lesson, I think, for our kids for a couple of reasons. One, so that our kids can understand how blessed we are in this nation. And two, to help them understand that it doesn't matter your circumstances. You don't need money to be rich. You can find joy in whatever circumstance you might find yourself in.
Absolutely agree. There is joy. There's wealth and experiences. That's what I like to tell people. As a teacher, but I'm also a travel influencer as well, a blogger. And, I'm so grateful because I get to travel to different places and write about them. But I always tell people, like, one of the things I enjoy spending my money on is travel. It's like, I don't need a fancy purse or, fancy shoes, but I think in travel dollars, right? So like, my motto is like, I want experiences over things. Like I want to have more experiences, more memories in my life than necessarily personal artifacts. So, you definitely find gratitude when you travel to different places and you see, like the luxuries, the access that we have. I talked about kids being addicted to video games in the U.S., in particular, but other countries that may not necessarily be the case. So yeah, there's definitely some joy in like having those experiences and those memories.
Yeah. I've been holding back asking about your life choices. So I've held back long enough.
Okay.
Here you are. You made the decision to travel around the world and live in different parts of the world. And you do something that I love to do. When I travel somewhere, obviously I go to the touristy things and see the sights and whatnot. But one of the things I love, and people think I'm crazy, is I love going to the supermarket in a different country. Because it's just like, there's no tourist guides there. It's just, this is where people live. So I'm hanging out with people where they live and seeing what they have and seeing the things that are the same and seeing the things that
Yes.
are different. And to me, that's like, oh, now I visited this country. I didn't visit the Disneyland of that. I'm here.
Right. Absolutely. It's so funny because I have a funny anecdote, a story about the first time I went to the grocery store by myself in South Korea. Just sparked this memory in me. The beauty of when I first moved to South Korea was that I had someone they called a co-teacher, someone in the classroom with you because I was teaching primary school kids at that time. So I wasn't fluent in Korean. So now I'm the English teacher. She's the Korean teacher. We taught together. So my first time going grocery shopping, she actually took me and, basically I called her my Korean mom. But the second time I went grocery shopping, I had to go by myself. And I was like, this is a totally different experience than going with my Korean mom. Like they have the fish tanks and they have the octopus and the different things, swimming around in the bowl. And I'm like, oh, trying to read signs. I'm like, oh, which detergent do I get? I don't want to bleach my clothes by accident, because, there is a lot of English over there, but also you look at the ingredients and you don't know what you're reading. So I just remember after getting my little items and getting into the line by myself, so excited, like, oh, I'm about to buy some groceries in South Korea for the first time. And so the person standing in front of me, they had a little plastic bag, they had it in their hand. Then they put it on the conveyor belt. Next thing I know, the bag starts slithering around the conveyor belt. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, Nicole, what have you gotten yourself into? This is where you're getting ready to live for the next year. Well, a few years really. But yeah, so he had a live octopus on the conveyor belt and I was just sitting there like, oh yeah. So the joys, the memories of my time in South Korea.
So what was it that made you make that choice to say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to travel around the world. I'm going to teach English, but I'm basically teaching English so I can travel around the world.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think about the times that we're in now, like we're in 2012 now. So I actually moved abroad in 2009, which is actually like at the start of the last recession that we had. So I actually left the U.S. because I was laid off from my job. I used to work in market research in Chicago before I left the country. So when I was laid off, I know I was, on unemployment, looking for work, 5 months. It was going on 6 months. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, I don't have a job lined up. What would I do? And I actually saw an opportunity to teach it. At that time, it was Japan. I was initially looking at Japan, because I actually had 3 girlfriends that taught in Japan a few years prior. And I went to visit them. So that was like one of my first big international trips abroad, visiting my friends that taught in Japan. So that idea, that curiosity, was sparked then when I saw them doing it and thriving. But, ultimately I ended up choosing South Korea in the end. But yeah, I thought I was actually just going to leave the U.S. for a year, maybe 2 when things get better, the economy. And I loved it so much. I just kept renewing my contract. I kept staying abroad. And next thing I know, I'm in Oman for 9 years. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's one. And how many places have you lived?
Let's see here. I was in South Korea for 3.5 years. I've been in Oman now for 9 years. And I actually studied abroad in Germany for a year. Mm-hmm. And did an internship in South Africa for 3 months. The program that I did was a dual master. So I studied in Germany for 9 months and then I did an internship for 3 months in South Africa. So technically we have 4 countries I've lived in total. Okay. And I've just traveled in different places while I'm living in these places. So
yeah. And it sounds like you've fallen in love with Oman.
I have, it's interesting because I said to myself after living in Korea for 3 years, probably a 2-3 year, I'll get that itch now, be ready to move somewhere new. But Oman has captured my heart. It's a beautiful country, beautiful people, and I'm very safe here. I love my life here, so I'm grateful. Yeah.
So, you were kind of, in a very polite way, you were testing to see if I knew where Oman was, and I appreciate that. And I passed. Nicole gave me big thumbs up. I knew the countries around it, and that was great. Didn't know that it wasn't landlocked. But so tell us a little bit, for those people who aren't as cultured and knowledgeable as I am, tell us a little bit about Oman, where it is in the world, language they speak, whatever you find interesting.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, Oman is it's a tiny little country. Population is only about 4 million, it's around 4 million. Small country is actually next door to the UAE, the United Arab Emirates. I like to call it the little brother of Dubai. Many people know where Dubai is, so if I mention Dubai, they know, oh, I have an idea of where it is on the map. So, yeah, Oman is near UAE. The Yemen is actually below us. Saudi is above us. So, we are. It's a beautiful country. Near the Arabian Sea. There's mountains, there's water, there's beaches. So a little bit of both, the best of both worlds, because you're in a desert, but you still have access to water and hiking and all of these beautiful things. But, the locals here, they speak Arabic. That's the first language. Many people speak English though. As an English teacher, I am able to get around the country without being fluent, or really I just know a few words of Arabic. Like I don't really use it in my day to day, and that's okay. I can get around without being fluent in Arabic, but yeah, and it's just a beautiful country and beautiful people, so I'm grateful.
Wonderful, wonderful. Part of me is very, very jealous because there are times in my life when I thought of, wouldn't that be cool to live in different countries? It wasn't a choice that I made, and that's okay because I really love my life too. But if there's somebody out there that's listening to this and they're thinking, to go and live in a different, that sounds so cool. What would you say to that person?
I would say go for it. Honestly, you only live one life. And, I tell people that at the end of the day, if I had moved to Korea and I didn't like it, probably knowing me, I would have toughed it out for a year and went back home. Like my initial plan was to go back to the U.S. after 1 or 2 years, right? So it's like home is always going to be there. Your family, your friends that you have back home, you will have new experiences. You will meet new friends, meet new people, but home is home. You always have the opportunity to go back. So, I know it's scary. Some people, they're like, oh, you love your family and, you're so brave. And I'm like, I guess I never thought of myself as brave. I just thought of myself as living a different lifestyle as everyone else, but at the end of the day, you never know unless you try. So,
yeah. And nowadays, we're living in a time. I mean, you and I, we're looking at each other. You're in Oman. I'm here in Boston. We're thousands of miles away. There's a giant ocean that separates us, but still we're able to speak face to face, see each other, be able to hop on a plane and be in each other's company if we had to within a day. And there are friends of mine who live on the other side of this continent that. The same thing. If I can't walk down the street and hang out with them, but I can get on a plane and meet them. So, yeah, it's a lot different. It's a lot different than it would have been to live abroad 30 or 40 years ago, or even 10 years ago, 13 years ago when you made the choice.
That is so true. I tell people all the time, it's like, thank goodness for technology. As we talked about, kids being addicted to video games and things like that. But one thing I am grateful for is how technology has grown, how it's like Zoom wasn't available before, 10 years ago when I first moved to South Korea. And I was like, I just have so many options to keep in contact with my family and friends. So that definitely, there is comfort in that. There is comfort in if I need to talk to my mom, I can hop on Facebook and send her a message and we can have a call like right then and there. So, that definitely helps, I am just a plane ride away. Granted, it's a longer plane ride. It's about 14 hours, but I'm still just a plane ride away. And it's ironic because it's funny you said, before I left the States and I was living in Chicago and my family was based in Atlanta, they moved down there. When I was working a regular 9 to 5, I would be lucky to have 2 weeks of vacation a year to be able to see my family. So I literally spend more quality time with my mom now, being a teacher living in the Middle East, than I did when I was working in market research living in Chicago. 2 hours flight away, 14 hours now, but at least I get to spend summers with her and, really just enjoy that quality time. So I'm grateful for that.
That's wonderful. Well, I know people are going to love an ABC Guide to Children's Games Around the Globe. Now that you've written this book, do you have the children's book writing bug? Or are you going to be writing more books?
I really would love to. It was such a fabulous experience, collaborating, finding an illustrator and having her bring the vision to life, the words, bringing the pictures to life. So I can definitely see myself. I've had people already ask oh, are you going to write another, guide? Or, this could be a series. And, the fact that people are putting this idea, literally, my first book, it wasn't a children's book, but literally the idea to write that book came from people saying like that idea should have been a book. And I was like, okay, I'll make it a book. So now that people are saying this book should be a series, I'm like, okay, maybe I'll make it a series. Like that wasn't my initial thought process, but the fact that people are enjoying it and they're like, they want to learn more about other games from around the world. I was like, okay, maybe I should can continue this on. So it's really exciting, like having people receive it so well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Nicole, where can people go if they want to find out more about this book and find out more about you?
Oh, great. Well, actually, as I said before, I'm actually a travel blogger, so I do have a travel blog. It's called I Love to Globetrot. So unique spelling is LUV, the number 2, because there's 2 of us who write on the blog, and then globetrot.com. So they can definitely find out about more about me and my travels on my website. And I've written, reviews and information about the book on there. But, and ABC Guide to Children's Games Around the Globe, it's available for purchase on Amazon and on BookBaby. I have a BookBaby shop as well, so it's available in 2 places online.
Wonderful. We've had a really fun time talking about living around the world, getting involved with different cultures, and also about the book, An ABC Guide to Children's Games Around the Globe. Our guest has been Nicole Brewer. Hey, Nicole, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you again for having me. I had a blast. Thanks so much.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We'll be celebrating the end of Hispanic Heritage Month. We would love for you to join us. Hey, speaking of joining us, we would love for you to join us on social media. Facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, @readingwithyourkids on Instagram, @readingwithyourkids on TikTok. Be sure to check out our Reading with Your Kids page on YouTube. And you can also follow us on Twitter @JedleyMagic. And, of course, we would love it if you could visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Sign up for our soon-to-debut online magazine. It's going to be free. It's going to be amazing. You can also use the contact button at the top of the page to let us know what you think about the podcast. Let us know what we're doing well. Let us know what we could be doing better. Let us know who you would like to hear on a future episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we're going to start by thanking our guest, Nicole Brewer. Please be sure to check out an ABC Guide to Children's Games Around the Globe. Also want to thank our sponsors, Escape to Play by Becky Garish and I Can Handle It by Lori Wright. I want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Mirabella Q, Jordan Saley. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.